Welcome back to the Modern Super League. Nathan Stoyer here with Jesse Robkin. And we just finished a really awesome match playing Black Red Evoke against Four Color Beanstalk. And Jesse, tell me a bit about how you feel about that match.
Yeah, honestly, I felt pretty representative. Like the match you won, you sort of completely you answered. I just like put a thing into play every turn, and you answered at every turn, and then eventually you landed a ring. And then the game I won, it was like very scrappy. I had you on the back foot most of the time. Stripped your answers from your hands with like Thoughtseize and stuff. And then had the Blood Moon when you had to decide between Omnath or the ring, and I think playing the ring makes sense because that way you don't die to a removal spell. But I had that Blood Moon, and then game 3 was a very weird game. That was like weirdly close, despite neither of our hands were really very good. Well, my hand would have turned into a good hand with one more land or a grief off the top on turn 1, but it was a very borderline keep. But I figured with you taking a mulligan, having double Thoughtseize seemed worthwhile. Though by the time you mulliganed to 5, I wished I had taken a mulligan.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So for those who were in chat, we have the exclamation point grief giveaway that we did. And for those who don't know, that was a special avatar that is given away for people who attended the Las Vegas event this past weekend. And so actually, this is going to be the last time that you can get this avatar. So you should definitely be spamming your exclamation point griefs in chat at the end of the round. Special shout out to Daybreak, who found a few extras tucked away at the warehouse and is just letting us give them away. But this is the last chance you have available to get them. So definitely give us your griefs in chat so that you can also be someone who represents grief on MagicOnline. But right now, we have a pretty exciting match upcoming. We have Aspiringspike, and he's going to be facing off against Yungdingo. This is the elimination round, but just for this week. So since we're in the winner's bracket, the losers, the people who get 2 losses over the course of today, are moving down, and the 2 winners are going to be facing off in the top 8 in a few more weeks. So stay tuned for that. But right now we have the matchup. I think we have it ready. We have Black Red Evoke on the side of Dingo versus Aspiringspike's really cool take on food. So,
well, Spike, I believe, is quite confident about his side of the matchup. Obviously, the White Splash put in a lot of work in my match against Spike, which Dingo did not bring. So I'll be curious to see what just more a traditional Rakdos deck, how that lines up against the deck. It seems like if Spike can get either Saga or Asmo going, it gets really hard for Scam to win.
Yeah, we almost saw that in your match, but I think the players are ready. So let's head down to their match, and yeah, let's see who takes it down. All right. So looking at these opening hands, we see
got an action shot here.
Yeah.
Halfway fetching.
Bloodstained Mire fetch on the stack. Usually that only means one thing. You're sitting on the other side, you're thinking, okay, Grief or Fury, something's coming. But right now, Dingo doesn't have either. It's just a Ragavan.
Yeah. Spike's hand, this Steel Seeker card seems pretty good in the matchup if it gets going, but does have 2 toughness, which means a pair of them can easily get cleaned up by a Grief, or by a Fury, I mean.
Yeah, and the fact that Spike's on the draw here means that this Ragavan is going to put him under a ton of pressure almost immediately. Similarly to what we saw in your match, it's like if you get a Ragavan on the play and you could start getting ahead on mana, it seems like Spike's deck has a harder time catching up, but we'll see. I mean, the Steel Seekers can provide a ton of value, especially if he finds one of the value engines like Academy Manufacturer or some way of making food and getting this Asmo going.
Oh, this Fury is brutal.
Yeah. So the Fury takes care of both creatures. No undying effect. Wow. This
Dingo,
is already
no time at all.
Yeah.
I would have been tempted to trade to attack first, because I don't think, like, if he blocks, you had that backup Ragavan, but
yeah, I mean, the nice part is
the Grief down.
Dingo did he hit Finale this turn? So Finale can search for something, or is he just going to a Grief this turn?
So he could Finale for like a second Voidwalker, but I have to imagine Grief is... Nope, they're going for it.
Yeah, Finale kind of makes some sense, right? Because if you put another Dothy Voidwalker in play, it means that there's no way that Spike's going to be able to unlock the potentially Cookbook comboing with the Oval Chase Daredevil. And it's also just unblockable. Like the Spike deck really needs to be able to put up some sort of defense here, and the Grief is still in hand. So I kind of like this play.
And with this shock, it is officially a turn 2 clock. Oh my god, and there's another... Oh, and plus you have the Terminate to clear a blocker. Yeah, this is just an absolute beatdown.
I think it doesn't really matter here. I might have wanted to see Fury pitching Terminate, and then you can hard cast Grief. That way there's no way that you have any issues going across the finish line, but it looks like it's a little too late for Spike to make a comeback.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. That would have been a slightly... Because at that point, the card in your hand doesn't matter that much.
All right.
Well, that was a lightning fast game. That was very similar to my first game against Spike in a lot of ways.
It almost seems like the Scam side is going to win the game extremely quickly and make the matchup look not very close. But when Spike's deck is doing its thing, it's going to be dragging the game pretty long. 2 Engineered Explosives, a Hitotsugu, a K-Command, and a Pithing Needle coming in from Dingo's side. And this time, Spike doesn't have to bring in 3 Force of Vigor without any Stony Silence. So that's a pretty big advantage to not playing against your specific list that he must be feeling good about.
Yeah, definitely. And it looks like Dingo is trying to figure out how to get these Bowmasters out of his deck, because they're not very good, but I could bring him 1 Chalice for 0 for Asmo. The problem with that is Finale for 0 still gets the Asmo into play. So, yeah, I don't know.
What do you think of just playing some Ragavans? Yeah, it's like, I understand Ragavan has a weakness of, in the late game, the Peregrine Took and the Academy Manufacturer are going to brick it, but it does seem to me like turn 1, it's still pretty nice and you can clear the way for it. So I think I like the 2 Ragavans that he brought in.
Yeah, it's also red, which is pretty important.
Yes.
It looks like at the last moment he swapped it out for Shieldred, which I actually... because I have 2 Shieldreds in my board too, and the problem with Shieldred is that it lines up so poorly against Asmo. So it's great if you've locked down the board, but if you haven't, then you're in some trouble. This hand is not... I might have been tempted to go to 5 for Dingo.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. From Dingo's side, I don't really think this hand's keepable. It's not particularly good at doing any angle of disruption or attack, and it seems to me like, well, if you draw Grief, then your hand is very good.
Well, clearly he knew something we didn't.
Yes. He's been practicing Scam, and it shows. This is what a true expert would do on turn 1.
Yeah, so I guess you take... I think I would take the Cookbook and the Steel Seeker here, personally. Yeah,
I mean, the other thing is, like, without any way of discarding this Asmo is not that effective. Like, the one thing that Spike's hand has going for it is the Goose allows him to cast any sort of 3-drop he draws. But I like your idea of taking the Steel Seeker and making sure that there's not an additional way of generating lands or value. Taking the Asmo is okay here, but there's not really any real discard outlet that can go along with the Asmo except a Cookbook. So I think I'm not sure about that decision either.
This Voidwalker does make the Steel Seeker a lot less scary because it's not getting the value out of the graveyard. But see, given that Spike drew another Asmo, which again I knew was going to happen, that's like the one thing that Dingo didn't consider.
Right, and that might be a fatal mistake. I mean, not considering that there was an Asmo on top, but again, right now, Spike doesn't have any way of putting the Asmo in play. At least we know in 2 turns, the Saga can get a Cookbook, which can put Asmo in play and maybe kill 2 creatures if we can make some more foods. But there's not a lot of time, and these Dothy Voidwalkers demand some sort of answer because it's already lethal next turn just with 2 unblockable Dothys.
Yeah, this is a... He does get... The food can make a... the Goose can make a food as well, so there's at least... That's still... What? That puts him at 2?
Yeah. So the Goose can make a food. and then you can crack the food after getting a forest. But
And the goose could double block here if it wanted to.
Oh, or you can just make a construct and double
Sure,
block.
yeah, double block that way. That works too.
That probably makes more sense. Do you block? Yeah, I was gonna say, do you block with these two and just kill the grief? I guess you kind of have to. You're sort of priced into it at this point.
Yeah. Well,
But
we're gonna get
3
another
Dothi-
Voidwalker coming down, but this
Yeah.
is, I mean, Spike will have 2 cookbooks, one from the Saga, one from the Asmo.
Yeah. Can he make enough? So he has to be able to get to 5 and kill 2 Dothi Voidwalkers somehow, which is pretty challenging here, right? Because we can like get a cookbook, discard something with the cookbook to cast Asmo. But I don't know.
Yeah. The Heath
Spike-
can go get a gingerbread cabin.
That's true. The gingerbread cabin's kind of huge here, yeah. But without another card in hand, let's see, you can only get a gingerbread cabin, go to 1, get 5 foods, and then you don't have the last card to discard, right?
Yeah, but so you can kill 2 things. The goose makes a mana, but can't also make. Yeah, he's 1 food short. He played pretty quickly, but I think he maybe. There's some math that okay. Oh yeah, you can draw a card. Oh wow, that was huge.
Wait, that was the only draw, maybe, right? We discard.
Is that even enough though?
No, you're right. It's not enough.
It makes
food.
well because Took makes 2. Okay, yeah. Ugh.
Oh, and with Dothi's in play, we don't even get the.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, we don't even get the thing back. Yeah.
Okay,
that's right. Dothi has more text.
Quick work made with these Dothi Voidwalkers, and this matchup kind of seemed like it comes down to if the scam player has a really quick draw, just gets to put a lot of pressure in the early stages. It's really hard for Spike's deck to beat those draws. But like maybe the average draws where you're facing off against like a lot less early pressure and you get your engine online, favor Spike. Like that turn really went from 0 to like almost coming back on the spot. Like with 1 more food in play, I think that game would have swung in Spike's favor. But
and this is also after Dingo top decked that grief on turn 1. His hand looked not nearly good enough to keep up with what Spike was doing until that happened. But yeah, I guess the white splash was unnecessary.
Yeah. So condolences to Aspiringspike, who is going to be playing in a different bracket. He's moving down in brackets, but the winner of your match upcoming versus Dingo is going to be the other person advancing to the top 8. How are you feeling right now? Are you nervous? Do you feel well prepared for the black-red mirror? Have you played much before?
I've played a ton of the mirror. I've never played it with the white splash, which Leyline is such a powerful card in the mirror. So having the purges to answer that, or just any scammed creature seems valuable. But also my mana will be a little less consistent. So I feel reasonably confident, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, feeling good. So if you're in chat, just a reminder, now's a great time. Let's put our griefs in chat in order to get our MagicOnline exclusive promo. This is the last chance you're going to have to get this promo. And after today, it'll no longer be available. Coming up next, you're going to see a really nice match between Jesse and Yungdingo. And the winner of that will move on.